The alarm screamed through the command bridge of Earth's first interstellar vessel, the Prometheus, as massive alien warships materialized from hyperspace around them. Captain Marcus Vale gripped his command chair as the ship shuddered under the gravitational wake of vessels each 10 times larger than his own. "Sir, we're surrounded," Lieutenant Rosa Kim reported from her station, her voice steady despite the impossible odds. 37 ships in formation. "No, wait, more are jumping in, 50, 60. They just keep coming." On the main view screen, an alien face appeared. The creature's 4 eyes glowed with an inner light, its scaled features arranged in what could only be described as contempt. When it spoke, the universal translator rendered its words in cold, mechanical tones. "Primitive vessel of the species calling itself human. You have violated the sacred boundaries of the hegemony empire. Prepare to be destroyed." Marcus stood slowly, his weathered face calm despite the death sentence that had just been pronounced. Around him, his crew of 43 souls waited for orders that could determine the fate of their entire species. Earth's first contact with galactic civilization was turning into humanity's last contact with anything. "Open a channel," Marcus ordered. "Sir, they're charging weapons," reported Chief Engineer Brooks from the rear stations. "Energy readings are off our scales. Whatever they're planning to hit us with could vaporize a small moon." Marcus ignored the tremor in his officer's voice. "Channel open, sir." "To the hegemony empire," Marcus began, his words carrying across space to beings who had never heard a human voice before. "I am Captain Marcus Vale of the Terran Federation. We came in peace, seeking contact with galactic civilization. If our presence here violates your laws, we apologize and request safe passage home." The alien commander's laugh was a sound like grinding metal. "Peace? You speak of peace while your very existence threatens the stability of our empire. Humans have been watched, evaluated, and found wanting. Your species shows the dangerous signs of rapid technological advancement and territorial expansion. History teaches us what happens when such species are allowed to flourish." Behind the commander, Marcus could see other alien faces on subsidiary screens, representatives of dozens of species all nodding in agreement, all united in their decision to eliminate humanity before it could become a threat. "Your species will join the historical records alongside the Kethvar, Swarm, and the Synthetic Collective," the commander continued. "Extinct civilizations that reach too far, too fast. The galaxy is safer without such ambitions." Marcus felt his blood run cold. They weren't just talking about destroying his ship. They were talking about genocide on a planetary scale. Earth's 4 billion inhabitants had no idea that their fate was being decided in the cold vacuum of space by beings they had never met. However, the alien commander added, and Marcus detected something new in its tone. "Your ship appears to possess technology that should not exist for a species of your development level. Your faster-than-light drive operates on principles unknown to our science. This presents an opportunity." Lieutenant Kim's fingers flew over her console. "Sir, I'm detecting massive energy buildups throughout their fleet. They're not just charging weapons anymore. It looks like they're preparing some kind of tractor beam array." Marcus realized what was happening. They didn't just want to destroy humanity. They wanted to study them first, learn their secrets, strip away whatever technological advantages Earth might possess before erasing them from existence. "Captain Vale," the alien commander said, its 4 eyes fixing on him with predatory intensity, "you will surrender your vessel and submit to interrogation. Your crew will provide us with complete technical specifications of your drive systems and any other advances your species has achieved. In return, we will make your death swift rather than prolonged." The bridge fell silent except for the hum of ship systems and the distant sound of alien vessels moving into position around them. Marcus looked at his crew of all young faces filled with determination, despite the terror of their situation. They had volunteered for humanity's first interstellar mission knowing the risks. None of them had expected those risks to include the entire extinction of their species. "Sir," whispered Lieutenant Kim, "what do we do?" Marcus stared at the alien commander's image, his mind racing through options that all seemed to lead to the same terrible conclusion. Earth needed to know what was out here, needed to know that humanity's first steps into the galaxy had drawn the attention of an empire that viewed them as a threat to be eliminated. But there was something the aliens didn't know about the Prometheus. Something that Earth scientists had built into their first interstellar vessel as a last resort. A failsafe, that no one had expected to use. Marcus smiled grimly and reached for a sealed panel on his command chair. Inside was a single red button marked with a warning label in 17 human languages. "Open channel to all ships," he ordered. "Marcus Vale," the alien commander snarled. "You have 10 seconds to comply with our demands, or we will take your ship by force and extract the information we require from your still-living brains." Marcus looked directly into the camera, knowing his next words would be transmitted not just to the alien fleet, but through the Prometheus's subspace communication array back to Earth, back to humanity's military leaders who would have exactly one chance to prepare for what was coming. To any human listening to this transmission, he said clearly, Protocol 7 is now in effect. The galaxy is not what we hoped it would be. They're coming for Earth. They're coming for all of us. And they think we're just another primitive species to be crushed under their boot. The alien commander's eyes widened as it realized what Marcus was saying. But they've made one critical mistake, Marcus continued, his hand hovering over the red button. They assume we came out here unprepared. They assume we didn't plan for the possibility that our first contact would be with a hostile force. They assume that humanity's greatest weakness is our lack of experience. With galactic politics, Marcus pressed the button. The Prometheus began to change. Sections of the hull that had appeared to be standard plating shifted and retracted, revealing weapon systems that operated on principles the aliens had never encountered. The ship's energy signature transformed from that of a primitive exploration vessel to something that made several alien captains step back from their command stations in shock. "Our greatest weakness," Marcus said as targeting systems locked onto the alien vessels with impossible speed and accuracy, "is also our greatest strength. We learn fast, we adapt faster, and we never ever go anywhere without a backup plan." The alien commander opened its mouth to give orders, but Marcus was faster. Fire. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's reputation for being a primitive, harmless species was about to become very, very outdated. The bridge of Admiral Kresh's flagship, the Dominator, shook violently as the impossible happened. The primitive human vessel, outnumbered 60-1, had just destroyed 3 hegemony warships with weapons that shouldn't exist. "Report," Kresh bellowed, his forearms gripping his command throne as another shockwave rocked the massive dreadnought. "Sir, the human ship, it's not showing up on our sensors correctly," his tactical officer reported, confusion evident in its voice. "One moment it appears to be a simple exploration vessel. The next our computers register it as a capital ship. Our targeting systems can't lock onto it." On the main screen, the human vessel that called itself Prometheus moved through space in ways that defied everything the hegemony knew about physics. It twisted and turned as if the laws of inertia didn't apply, dodging plasma cannons and quantum torpedoes while returning fire with weapons that cut through shield systems, like they weren't there. Admiral Kresh had commanded fleets for 3 centuries. He had conquered 47 star systems for the hegemony empire. He had personally overseen the extermination of 6 species that showed dangerous potential. Never before had he encountered anything like this. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Intelligence reports indicated they achieved faster-than-light travel only 50 years ago. Our projections showed they wouldn't develop advanced weapons for at least another 2 centuries. His science officer, a crystalline being whose species had served the hegemony for millennia, flickered with agitation. "Admiral, I'm detecting technology signatures that don't match any known galactic civilization. Their power source appears to be—" "Wait, this can't be right." "What?" Kresh snapped. "Sir, they're not using conventional fusion or antimatter. The energy readings suggest they've somehow managed to harness zero-point quantum fluctuations directly. That's theoretical technology even for the core worlds." The tactical display updated, showing the human ship accelerating impossibly fast toward the hegemony formation. Instead of running as any sensible crew would do when facing overwhelming odds, the humans were attacking. "Sir, incoming transmission from the human vessel," communications reported. On screen, Captain Marcus Vale's face appeared again, but this time there was no fear in his expression, only cold determination and something else that made Kresh's blood run cold. "Confidence." "Admiral Kresh of the Hegemony Empire," Marcus said, somehow knowing exactly who he was addressing despite having never encountered their species before. "I believe we need to have a conversation about the future of human-galactic relations. Your ship will be destroyed within minutes. Kresh replied, trying to project the authority that had made lesser species surrender without a fight. Whatever weapons you've cobbled together cannot stand against the might of the hegemony fleet. Marcus smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. Admiral, you're operating under several false assumptions. First, you assume this is our only ship. Second, you assume we're alone out here. And third, you assume that we don't know exactly who you are and why you're here. The bridge fell silent. Around the tactical display, Kresh could see his officers exchanging worried glances. How could a primitive species know anything about hegemony operations? Impossible, Kresh said. Your species has had no contact with galactic civilization before today. Officially, Marcus agreed. But you see, Admiral, we've been listening. For the past 50 years, every radio signal, every hyperspace transmission, every piece of interstellar communication that reached our corner of space has been intercepted, analyzed, and translated by our best minds. The science officers' form pulsed with alarm. Admiral, if that's true, they would have been learning about galactic politics, military tactics, and technology for decades before making contact. Marcus nodded as if he could hear their conversation. Your science officer is correct. We know about the hegemony empire's expansion policies. We know about the 47 civilizations you've absorbed or destroyed. We know about your standard procedure for dealing with species that show rapid technological development. Kresh felt his confidence wavering. Even if you've been spying on our communications, you're still just one ship against 60. Are we? Marcus asked. The tactical display suddenly erupted with new contacts. Ships appeared from seemingly empty space all around the hegemony fleet. Not just one or two, but dozens. They materialized using some kind of advanced stealth technology that had rendered them completely invisible until they chose to reveal themselves. What is this? Kresh whispered. This, Admiral, is what happens when a species has 50 years to prepare for first contact with a hostile galactic empire, Marcus replied. Did you really think we would send our first interstellar mission out with just one ship? Did you think we wouldn't prepare for the possibility that our neighbors might not be friendly? The new human vessels were unlike anything in hegemony databases. Sleek, angular craft that seemed to bend light around them, making them difficult to track visually. Their energy signatures showed power outputs that rivaled hegemony dreadnoughts despite being a fraction of the size. Tactical analysis, Kresh ordered, his voice tight with growing panic. Sir, I'm reading 37 human vessels, all with configurations unknown to our databases. Their weapons appear to operate on principles we don't understand. Our shields are already compromised from their initial attack, and our ships are taking damage from technology that shouldn't exist. On the view screen, Marcus leaned forward. Admiral, I'm going to make you an offer. Stand down your weapons, withdraw your fleet, and we'll consider this an unfortunate misunderstanding. Continue your attack, and you'll discover exactly how much humanity has learned about warfare from studying galactic military tactics for half a century. Kresh's pride warred with his survival instincts. The hegemony had ruled through fear and overwhelming force for thousands of years. To retreat in the face of a primitive species would be unthinkable. But the tactical situation was rapidly becoming untenable. Sir, his tactical officer reported, we're losing ships. Their weapons are cutting through our hulls like they're made of paper. Whatever technology they're using, our defenses weren't designed to handle it. Another hegemony vessel exploded on the tactical display, its antimatter reactor breaching under fire from human weapons that seemed to ignore established laws of physics. Admiral, Marcus said, his voice carrying across the bridge with deadly calm, you have 10 seconds to make a decision. Withdraw now or discover what happens when you underestimate a species that's had 50 years to study your military weaknesses. Kresh stared at the tactical display showing his fleet being systematically dismantled by ships from a species they had dismissed as primitive. Every instinct told him to fight, to show these upstart humans what true galactic power looked like. But another part of him, the part that had kept him alive through 3 centuries of warfare, recognized a superior force when he saw one. Sir, what are your orders? His second-in-command asked. Kresh looked at the human captain on the screen. Marcus Vale's expression showed no mercy, no uncertainty. This was not the face of a primitive savage. This was the face of a commander who held all the tactical advantages and knew it. For the first time in his military career, Admiral Kresh of the Hegemony Empire realized he was outmatched. But retreating would mean admitting that everything they thought they knew about this human species was wrong. It would mean returning to the core worlds with news that would shake the foundations of galactic civilization. "Admiral," Marcus said quietly, "your time is up." The human fleet began moving into attack formation, their impossible ships taking positions that demonstrated tactical knowledge no primitive species should possess. Kresh realized that whatever decision he made in the next few seconds would determine not just the fate of his fleet, but possibly the future of the entire galaxy. The question was no longer whether humanity could be destroyed. The question was whether anyone would be left alive to warn the galaxy about what was coming. 3 days after the hegemony fleet's humiliating retreat, the emergency session of the Galactic Council convened in the massive crystalline chamber orbiting the core world of Zentara Prime. Representatives from 43 member species gathered in unprecedented haste, their varied forms filling the amphitheater-style seating as urgent translations filled the air. High Chancellor Varric of the Zentaran Collective called the session to order with a gesture of his six-fingered hand. The ancient being's normally composed demeanor showed cracks of concern as he addressed the assembly. "Fellow council members," Varric began, his voice amplified through bioacoustic translators, "we face a crisis unlike any in recorded galactic history. A previously unknown species has demonstrated military capabilities that exceed our most advanced technologies." Murmurs of disbelief rippled through the chamber. Ambassador Thane of the Korthek Republic, a massive insectoid creature, clicked his mandibles in agitation. "Impossible. Our intelligence networks monitor all developing civilizations. No species could achieve such advancement without our knowledge." Admiral Kresh stood at the witness podium, his normally pristine uniform bearing the scorch marks of battle. The proud hegemony commander who had conquered dozens of worlds now looked like a broken soldier reporting a disaster. "Honorable council members," Kresh began, his voice carrying the weight of defeat. "I stand before you having lost 17 ships and over 8,000 crew members to a species we classified as primitive just 72 hours ago. The humans did not simply defeat USAWAR. They made our most advanced warships look like obsolete scrap metal." Representative Quinn of the Nexari Confederation, her crystalline form refracting light in patterns of skepticism, spoke next. "Admiral, your report claims these humans possess weapons technology centuries beyond their supposed development level. How do you explain such an impossibility?" Kresh activated a holographic display showing tactical recordings from the battle. The assembled representatives watched in stunned silence as human vessels moved through space with impossible agility, their weapons cutting through hegemony shields and armor as if they didn't exist. "As you can see," Kresh continued, "their ships demonstrate capabilities that violate several fundamental laws of physics as we understand them. Their faster-than-light drives operate on principles unknown to galactic science. Their weapons appear to manipulate matter at the quantum level. Most disturbing, they display detailed knowledge of our military tactics and fleet compositions." Ambassador Zara of the Vorthak Union, a towering reptilian figure, rose from her seat. "You're suggesting they've been spying on galactic civilization for decades?" "That's exactly what I'm suggesting," Kresh replied grimly. "Their captain, Marcus Vale, knew my name, my rank, and specific details about hegemony operations that should have been classified at the highest levels. They've been listening to our communications, studying our weaknesses, and preparing for this moment for far longer than any of us realized." High Chancellor Varric leaned forward in his throne-like seat. "What are your recommendations, Admiral?" "Immediate mobilization of the combined galactic fleet," Kresh said without hesitation. "Every available warship from every member species. If we're going to face this human threat, we need overwhelming force applied before they can expand their operations." The chamber erupted in debate. Species representatives argued in dozens of languages, their translations creating a cacophony of competing voices. Some called for immediate military action. Others urged caution and attempted diplomacy. Ambassador Thane's clicking voice rose above the chaos. "The Admiral speaks of a threat, but what if these humans are simply defending themselves? Our own protocols call for the elimination of rapidly advancing species. Perhaps they're responding to a perceived threat." "They destroyed 17 of our most advanced warships," Kresh shot back. "How is that defensive?" "You were attempting to destroy them first," pointed out Representative Quinn. "From their perspective, they were fighting for survival." High Chancellor Varric raised his hand for silence. The philosophical debate can wait. What concerns me is the strategic implication. If one human exploration vessel could defeat a hegemony battle group, what happens when their full military capacity is revealed? On cue, the chamber's emergency communication system activated. A junior aide rushed to Varric's side, whispered urgently in his ear, and handed him a data tablet. The Chancellor's expression darkened as he read. "Fellow council members," Varric announced, his voice carrying a new note of urgency. "I've just received reports from our monitoring stations throughout the galactic rim. Long-range sensors are detecting massive energy signatures in the direction of human space. Whatever they showed Admiral Kresh appears to have been only a fraction of their true capabilities." The holographic display updated, showing sensor readings from the past 3 days. Instead of the small fleet that had engaged the hegemony forces, the readings suggested hundreds of ships moving through space toward the galactic core. Ships with energy signatures that dwarfed anything in the Council's databases. Ambassador Zara hissed through her razor-sharp teeth. "How many ships are we talking about?" "Conservative estimates suggest a minimum of 300 vessels," Varric replied, "all with technology levels that exceed our most optimistic projections for any species outside the core worlds." The chamber fell into stunned silence. 300 ships with technology superior to galactic standard meant humanity possessed a fleet capable of challenging the combined might of the Council itself. "There's more," Varric continued, his voice grim. "Our intelligence sources in the Outer Rim report unusual activity around several previously unknown star systems. It appears the humans haven't just been hiding advanced technology. They've been hiding entire colonies." Representative Quinn's crystalline form flickered with alarm. "How many colonies?" "Unknown, but preliminary estimates suggest they may have established settlements in over 20 star systems without our knowledge. Systems we didn't even know were inhabited." Admiral Kresh stepped forward again. "Honorable Council members, this confirms what I've been trying to tell you. The humans aren't just another primitive species that got lucky with one technological breakthrough. They're a mature, spacefaring civilization that has been deliberately concealing their true capabilities while studying us." Ambassador Thane's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation in his species. "But why? What do they want?" "That," said a new voice from the chamber's main entrance, "is what we've come here to discuss." Every head turned toward the source of the voice. Standing in the chamber's grand doorway was a human figure. A woman in a simple black uniform bearing no insignia or decoration. She was flanked by 2 others, their faces calm despite being surrounded by representatives of species that could crush human civilization with a thought. "I am Commander Elena Torres of the Terran Federation," the woman announced, her voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber despite its modest volume. "I've come to speak with the Galactic Council about the future of human-galactic relations." High Chancellor Varric found his voice first. "How did you get past our security?" Elena smiled, and it was not a reassuring expression. "Chancellor, your security assumes threats come from outside. We've been inside your systems for quite some time now," she gestured, and the chamber's holographic displays activated, showing detailed schematics of the Council's most classified military installations, fleet positions, and defensive systems, information that should have been impossible for any outsider to obtain. "We know about your antimatter production facilities on Xerion 7, Elena continued conversationally. "We know about the secret weapons research on Kent Station. We know about the biological warfare programs you've been developing for use against problematic species." The Council members stared in horror as their deepest secrets were laid bare before them. Decades of classified research, hidden military projects, and contingency plans for dealing with emerging threats. All of it displayed casually on their own screens by a species they had considered primitive. "The question you should be asking," Elena said, walking calmly down the chamber's central aisle toward the speaker's podium, "isn't how we got this information. The question you should be asking is what we intend to do with it." She reached the podium and looked up at the assembled representatives of beings from species that had ruled the galaxy for millennia, now staring down at a human who held their civilization's most sensitive secrets in her hands. "The galaxy is about to change," Elena announced. "The only question is whether that change happens peacefully, or whether we have to force the issue. The choice, honored council members, is yours." The chamber remained silent as the full weight of humanity's position became clear. They weren't dealing with a primitive species stumbling into galactic politics. They were dealing with a civilization that had been planning this moment for decades, and they held all the cards. The emergency klaxons wailed through the Galactic Defense Command as reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Commander Elena Torres had given the Council 24 hours to consider humanity's proposals for peaceful coexistence. Those 24 hours had expired 6 minutes ago. General Kados of the Combined Fleet stood before the largest tactical display in galactic history, watching as the nightmare scenario unfolded in real time. Red indicators marked human fleet positions across dozens of star systems, while urgent reports scrolled continuously across subsidiary screens. "Sir, we're receiving simultaneous attacks on 17 core world defensive installations," reported his tactical coordinator, Lieutenant Vex. "All strikes are precise, targeting only military assets. No civilian casualties reported." Kato studied the tactical display with growing disbelief. The human forces weren't conducting a traditional military campaign. Instead, they were demonstrating surgical precision that spoke to intelligence-gathering capabilities far beyond anything the galaxy had imagined possible. "How are they coordinating attacks across such vast distances?" Kados demanded. "Our fastest communications take hours to reach the outer systems." "Unknown, sir. Whatever communication technology they're using operates faster than our hyperspace relays. Their fleet coordination is perfect as every attack began within nanoseconds of each other, despite being separated by thousands of light years." On the main screen, Admiral Kresh's scarred face appeared via emergency transmission from the Hegemony fleet staging area. "General Katos, the humans have struck our primary shipyards at Viridian. They bypassed our entire defense perimeter somehow and destroyed our ship construction facilities. Our response fleets can't even find them. They disappear before we can engage." More windows opened on the display, showing panicked reports from across the galaxy. The Crystalline Nexari Confederation reported their quantum computing centers had been precisely targeted and disabled. The Vorthak Union's biological research stations had been neutralized. The Korthak Republic's antimatter stockpiles had been systematically eliminated. "Sir," Lieutenant Vex reported, his voice tight with barely controlled panic, "we're not fighting a conventional war. They're conducting what appears to be a coordinated dismantling of galactic military infrastructure. Every species' most sensitive installations are being hit simultaneously." General Kados realized the horrifying truth. They're not trying to conquer us. They're surgically removing our ability to threaten them. The tactical display updated again, showing new human fleet positions. Instead of the 300 ships initially detected, the sensors now showed over 800 vessels distributed throughout galactic space. Each group was positioned to threaten a major population center or critical infrastructure node. "General," came another transmission, this one from High Chancellor Varek aboard the Council's emergency command ship. "The humans are requesting another audience. Commander Torres says she has a final proposal." Kados looked at the tactical situation one more time. In less than 6 hours, humanity had demonstrated the ability to strike anywhere in the galaxy, with impunity, while remaining essentially untouchable themselves. Traditional military doctrine had become completely irrelevant. "Put her through," Kados ordered. Elena Torres appeared on the main screen, her expression as calm as if she were discussing the weather, rather than holding galactic civilization hostage. Behind her, the bridge of her ship showed technology that looked decades ahead of anything in Council databases. "General Kados," Elena began, "I trust the past 6 hours have been educational. We've demonstrated that galactic military superiority is no longer the deciding factor in interstellar politics. Traditional fleet actions, planetary bombardments, and wars of attrition are obsolete when fighting an opponent with better technology and superior intelligence." "What do you want?" Kados asked through gritted teeth. "What we've always wanted," Elena replied, "peaceful coexistence. The right to exist without being hunted to extinction, because some council committee decided we showed dangerous potential. The right to explore the galaxy and establish colonies without being classified as a threat." Admiral Kresh's image rejoined the conference. "You've demonstrated superior technology, but you can't fight the entire galaxy indefinitely. Our combined fleets number in the tens of thousands of ships." Elena smiled, and for the first time it seemed genuinely amused rather than threatening. "Admiral, you're still thinking in terms of traditional warfare. Fleets, territories, occupation forces. That's not how this works anymore. The tactical display changed, showing a new perspective. Instead of ship positions, it now displayed the galaxy's critical infrastructure networks, from power grids, communication relays, transportation hubs, and supply chains. Every major civilization's lifeline was mapped in perfect detail. You see, Elena continued, we don't need to fight your fleets. We don't need to occupy your worlds. We simply need to ensure that any attempt to threaten humanity results in the immediate collapse of galactic civilization as you know it. Lieutenant Vex stared at the display in horror. They've infiltrated everything. Every system, every network, every critical piece of infrastructure in the galaxy. How long? General Kados asked quietly. Excuse me? How long have you been inside our systems? Elena's expression became thoughtful. Since approximately 6 months after we achieved faster-than-light travel. Your security protocols are impressive by galactic standards, but they weren't designed to deal with an intelligence that approaches problems from completely different angles. High Chancellor Varick's transmission rejoined the conference. What you're describing is not coexistence, or it's holding the entire galaxy hostage. Is it? Elena asked. Let me propose an alternative perspective. For thousands of years, the Galactic Council has maintained peace through the threat of overwhelming force. Any species that showed dangerous potential was eliminated before they could become a challenge to the established order. You've been holding emerging civilizations hostage to your fear of change, she gestured, and the display showed historical records of the 47 species the hegemony alone had destroyed in the name of galactic stability. We're simply leveling the playing field, Elena continued. Mutual assured destruction has kept primitive species like humans peaceful for centuries. Now it can keep advanced species like yourselves peaceful as well. General Kados realized they were facing something unprecedented in galactic history, a species that had achieved technological superiority, not through gradual development, but through systematic intelligence gathering and strategic planning. They had studied galactic civilization from the outside, identified its weaknesses, and positioned themselves to exploit those weaknesses perfectly. What are your terms? Varick asked, his voice heavy with defeat. Simple, Elena replied. Humanity is granted full membership in galactic civilization with all attendant rights and privileges. Our colonies are recognized as legitimate territorial claims. The Council's policy of preemptive elimination of advancing species is permanently abolished. And most importantly, all species are Yaros, not just the established powers who have a voice in galactic governance. Admiral Kresh leaned forward. And if we refuse? Elena's expression didn't change, but something cold flickered in her eyes. Then you'll discover what happens when a species with our capabilities decides that peaceful coexistence is impossible. We've shown you surgical strikes on military targets. We can just as easily target the infrastructure that keeps your civilizations functioning. The threat hung in the air like a death sentence. Every being on the conference call understood that humanity held the power to collapse galactic civilization without firing another shot. You have 6 hours to make a decision, Elena announced. The Council can vote to accept our terms and begin a new era of truly representative galactic governance. Or you can choose to find out what the galaxy looks like when the established order collapses. The transmission ended, leaving the galaxy's military leaders staring at tactical displays that showed their complete helplessness against an enemy. They had fatally underestimated General. Kados looked around at the faces of his staffer beings from dozens of species who had believed themselves masters of the galaxy just hours earlier. Now they were learning what it felt like to be the primitive species facing extinction at the hands of a superior force. The irony was not lost on anyone in the room. Humanity had simply applied the Council's own methods more effectively than the Council ever had. 6 months after the galaxy's most powerful civilizations surrendered to a species they had dismissed as primitive, the Galactic Council chamber buzzed with unprecedented activity. The ancient crystalline halls that had once echoed with the voices of 43 species now hosted representatives from over 200 civilizations, many appearing for the first time in galactic history. Commander Elena Torres, now bearing the title of Terran Ambassador, sat at what had once been the Human Observers section. Today, humanity held a permanent seat on the expanded council, with full voting rights and veto power over military actions against emerging species. High Chancellor Varick called the session to order, his ancient voice carrying a weariness that spoke to the massive changes of recent months. Fellow council members, we convene today to address the final items of the Terran Accords and formally establish the new galactic governmental structure. Around the vast amphitheater, beings who had never dreamed of having a voice in galactic politics now participated as equals. The insectoid Zephyrians, whose homeworld had been under council observation for centuries, sat beside the energy-based Luminians who had only recently been discovered. Species that had lived in fear of extinction now debated policy alongside their former potential executioners. The vote on Resolution 7, Varric continued, regarding the permanent prohibition of preemptive species elimination, will now commence. Elena watched as the voting displays lit up across the chamber. The resolution passed by an overwhelming margin. Only 3 species voted against it, and those were former Council Corps members whose military power had been systematically neutralized over the past months. Admiral Kresh, whose military career had effectively ended with his defeat at human hands, approached the speaker's podium. The once proud hegemony commander now served as an advisor on military reorganization, a role that involved dismantling much of the infrastructure he had spent his life building. Honorable Council, Kresh began, his voice carrying none of its former authority. I present the final report on galactic military restructuring. All species-specific fleets have been disbanded and replaced with integrated defense forces under Council oversight. No single species now possesses the military capacity to threaten another. It was a revolutionary change. For millennia, the galaxy's peace had been maintained through the threat of superior force wielded by a few powerful species. Now that same peace was maintained through mutual vulnerability and shared governance. Elena rose to address the Council. Chancellor Varric, members of the Council, 6 months ago, humanity emerged from our isolation to find a galaxy governed by fear. Today, we've established a system based on cooperation and mutual respect, but this is just the beginning. She activated a holographic display showing star maps that extended far beyond the galaxy's current borders. Our long-range sensors have detected evidence of extragalactic civilizations, species, and empires that make our local conflicts seem trivial by comparison. If we're going to face those challenges, we need to do it united, not as a collection of competing empires. Murmurs of concern rippled through the assembly. The idea of threats from beyond their galaxy was sobering even for species that had only recently been at each other's throats. Representative Quinn of the Nixari Confederation, her crystalline form refracting new patterns of curiosity, spoke first. Ambassador Torres, what evidence do you have of these extragalactic civilizations? Elena gestured, and the display zoomed in on gravitational anomalies at the galaxy's edge. Massive artificial structures moving between galaxies. Energy signatures that dwarf anything we've detected within our own space. Whatever's out there has technology that makes our recent advances look primitive. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The galaxy had just undergone a massive political transformation to deal with humanity's emergence. Now they faced the possibility of contact with civilizations that might view their entire galaxy as a minor curiosity. High Chancellor Varric leaned forward in his throne. What do you propose, Ambassador? Complete integration, Elena replied without hesitation. Not just political cooperation, but technological and scientific collaboration on a scale never before attempted. Every species, every culture, every unique perspective working together to advance our collective capabilities. Ambassador Thane of the Korthek Republic clicked his mandibles in thought. You're suggesting we abandon the competitive development model that has driven galactic progress for millennia. I'm suggesting that competitive development is a luxury we can no longer afford, Elena responded. When humanity first detected galactic civilization, we made a choice. We could compete with you using the same methods you'd always used, or we could find a completely different approach. Our success came from thinking outside established paradigms. She paused, letting her words sink in before continuing. Now we face an even greater challenge. Whatever's beyond our galaxy won't be impressed by our local politics or territorial disputes. They'll evaluate us as a single civilization, and we need to be worthy of that evaluation. The debate that followed lasted for hours. Species that had viewed each other as competitors or threats for thousands of years struggled with the concept of complete collaboration. But gradually, as Elena presented evidence of the extragalactic activity, the necessity became clear. General Katos, now serving as head of the Integrated Defense Forces, stood to speak. Honored Counsel, from a military perspective, Ambassador Torres is correct. Our recent conflicts demonstrated that traditional approaches to galactic security are obsolete. If we face threats from outside our galaxy, we'll need capabilities that no single species can develop alone. The final vote was closer than the previous resolutions, but it passed. The Galactic Cooperative was formally established, replacing the old council structure with something unprecedented in galactic history. Truly representative government dedicated to collective advancement, rather than competitive dominance. As the session concluded, Elena remained in her seat, watching as representatives from hundreds of species mingled in ways that would have been impossible just months earlier. Former enemies discussed joint research projects. Species that had never met before planned cultural exchanges. The transformation was remarkable, but she knew it was only the beginning. Ambassador Zara of the Vorthak Union approached Elena as the chamber emptied. "You've accomplished something remarkable, Ambassador Torres. A year ago, if someone had told me that humans would revolutionize galactic civilization, I would have considered it impossible." Elena smiled, but her expression was thoughtful. "We didn't revolutionize anything, Ambassador Zara. We simply applied lessons that humanity learned the hard way over our own history. Competition is useful for growth, but cooperation is essential for survival." She gestured toward the star map still displayed on the chamber's screens. "Besides, what we've accomplished here is just preparation. The real test will come when we make contact with whatever's waiting beyond our galaxy." Admiral Kresh joined their conversation, his former enemy now a reluctant ally. "Do you truly believe we can face such threats united?" Elena looked at the former hegemony commander who had once planned humanity's extinction, now working alongside her to prepare for challenges that dwarfed their previous conflicts. "Admiral, 6 months ago you commanded a fleet designed to eliminate my species. Today you're helping design defenses to protect all our species. If that transformation is possible, then anything is possible." As the three beings stood together in the ancient chamber, our human Vorthak and Hegemonia, they represented something that had never existed before in galactic history. Former enemies united not by conquest or submission, but by mutual recognition that their greatest challenges lay ahead, not behind. The galaxy had learned a harsh lesson about underestimating humanity. Now they would discover whether the cooperative civilization they had built together could face whatever waited in the vast darkness between the stars. In the end, humanity's greatest gift to galactic civilization wasn't superior technology or military might. It was the revolutionary idea that survival depended not on crushing potential threats, but on transforming them into allies. The galaxy would need every ally it could find for what was coming next. The age of competitive galactic empires was over. The age of cooperative galactic civilization had begun, and none too soon, as the first extragalactic contact signals began reaching the galaxy's outer monitoring stations, carrying messages that would challenge everything they thought they knew about their place in the universe. But that was a story for another day. Today, the galaxy celebrated its first steps toward true unity, guided by a species that had been considered primitive just months before. The irony was not lost on anyone. Sometimes the greatest wisdom came from those who had been underestimated the most.